Prices makes them a lot more vulnerable to these things. So, for example, summertime heat that has more than doubled since the 1960s, air pollution from living near factories, living near highways, poor drinking water, this is septic tank failures, pollution and runoff, not having clean water because our pipes are very old or infrastructure is failing. These are like many different problems that can often lead to deteriorating children's health. And the environmental factors that are specific to the Mid-Atlantic, these are just some of the events that have happened over the last year, 2 years, highlighted by the EPA. So, for example, there's been destructive floods in West Virginia and Philadelphia. There's been tornadoes in suburban Maryland, and what this has caused is creating more airborne contaminants, whether that be like dripping insulation from homes and things like that, as well as like siding and other building materials that should not have been airborne particles, increasing pests in crops in Pennsylvania, which increases children's exposure to pesticides, contamination of drinking water due to water intrusion in Delaware. This is so much like the water infrastructure point and having problems with that. And temperatures in cities. We saw a very, very hot summer. We've had a very hot last couple of weeks in the Mid-Atlantic region. The temperatures in cities as well as this region are making it unsafe for children to go play outside if they don't have the necessary protection.
As mentioned by previous presenters in our slideshow, a lot of underserved and marginalized communities face the brunt of the environmental justice issue, especially in the Mid-Atlantic region. Children living in poverty, they often don't have access to a lot of the resources that can help protect them from these environmental justice issues, these climate change issues. They don't have filtered water or properly ventilated buildings to help their health and to protect them from any issues or particles, bacteria, anything that they might be exposed to. They're often exposed to these living in poverty because they don't have the resources or aren't offered the resources to mitigate that. As well as communities of color, they're often placed near these communities where there are very poor infrastructure, with very low resources. They often face the brunt of that for that very reason because they live near areas where there's often a lot of pollution from cars, for example. They have to deal with that themselves because they're not offered the opportunities to fix that or the funding. And they also must deal with these issues as they're not offered the medical need that they may have, if not as great as it is in other less marginalized environments. They have to deal with a lot of these issues by themselves. So to look at some of the work that's being done for that, some examples of what youth is doing and what you can do is sign petitions and write letters to local governments for better health policies. There are many, many bills for environmental justice that we can help promote and spread throughout the nation and to help show that we are interested in it and to our government show that these are policies we want implemented. You can do that by signing petitions, writing letters, explaining the importance, and specifically explaining why it's important to you. And many people do that in the Mid-Atlantic region. There can also be an opportunity to build community gardens and green spaces. As was mentioned, there are not many green spaces for children around. There's many for infrastructure that prevents them from playing outside or going outside. And these community gardens and green spaces could be an opportunity for them to get some outdoor activity and time in a safe and welcoming environment. There is also the opportunity to teach local schools and community spaces about environmental indicators and dangers. There are many teams in the Mid-Atlantic region making this curriculum and policy based on their issues that they design for schools to teach younger people about so that they themselves can protect themselves and can start fighting in the environmental justice issue as well. And then in DC specifically, many people advocate for improved legislation surrounding children's environmental health. They go directly for rallies and protests and argue for the improvement of our environmental policies. Another thing you can do is donate money. There are many opportunities to advocate for our environment and for our children. To focus on some of the notable youth advocate groups in the Mid-Atlantic region, there is Our Climate, which is based in DC. They've done many impressive things, including passing elected policies that advocate for environmental justice. They have inspired youth to mobilize and to work against environmental justice issues. They have a climate change summit where many children can go and learn what they can do. They have helped our youth in the region pass 113 legislative actions for the environmental justice region, and they just do many work with youth to inspire them to help. Baltimore Beyond Plastic is based in Baltimore, and it is primarily with children. They do many rallies, as you can see in the picture, where they advocate for less plastic, better water, and they help do that by advocating directly to the government, as well as there's many petitions on their website that you can sign to show your interest and show your desire for these policies to pass. And finally, there's Howard County Conservancy, where they focus on providing the Howard County public school systems with environmental field trips and environmental education to again teach youth what they can do for the environment, how they can protect themselves, where the dangers are, and inspire them to advocate for themselves and to do some of the work that's being done right now. And that was done by a fellow youth activist, Ira Singh. To focus on some of the work that EGC is doing specifically for the Mid-Atlantic region and children's health, we partner with many groups, and we also have our own original policies and works. So there's the Maryland Campaign Environmental Health Rights, where we help create an advocacy toolkit for the state law that is so and healthy environment is a human right. There are many ways to advocate for yourself and for your community, and EGC helps you to learn those ways and to enact them. There's lobbying, writing letters, petitions, and EGC makes those step-by-step guides to really help you advocate for yourself in specifically safe and health environments. We also work with Baltimore Transit Equity Coalition to create a middle school curriculum on the effect of transit inequities on overburdened communities. As I said, many of these cars cause pollution that hurts community of color in more than other communities. So we created or helped create a curriculum for that exact reason, and to educate people and to teach them what they can do. And some of the things we did ourselves and how to spread is policies. We write original policies on how to protect youth against pollutants using community screening tools, and we work to get that out there, to promote it. We originally wrote it and then we advocated for it. There's also the educational curriculum that I myself have been working on specifically for water pollution and safe drinking water. It teaches people how the water became unsafe, why that is, specifically what communities are most impacted, and what they can do, as well as how they can teach others about it. So it's really to spread the environmental justice issues by. And then is Smart Growth America, which is working towards policy initiatives focused on impacting housing and land use in relation to youth and urban communities. And that is a really great work.
So now we will be covering how to engage youth to advocate for children's health and what we do as a youth-led organization and our advice to professionals in the field who may be watching this presentation. So the importance of youth voices, as we have outlined before, and as Catherine highlighted, there's a lot of different reasons why you should listen to the youth voices in the climate movement, primarily because we will become the climate leaders of tomorrow. And it's important for people, as well as young people, to be educated on a lot of the issues, as well as the prevalent challenges we face in our current society. So youth, as I just said, are the leader activists, policymakers, climate scientists of the future. So it's important to give us a seat now to grow and gain confidence within the climate space and hopefully have a long-lasting career full of impact and helping communities through that. So we often sometimes think of solutions that may have not been previously thought of by people in the field. And sometimes it's helpful to talk to youth who are currently facing those issues and hear truly what the solutions that they have to say and empower them in this space. We also bring a diverse set of skills, for example, social media and technology. We also encourage recognizing youth as valuable assets to the climate movement, really encourages people to join the movement. For example, like having Catherine and I on this panel, and if there are any young students, whether they be in college or in high school, they're watching this and feel like, oh, maybe one day that'll be us too, and that there's other people doing work in this space. It inspires other youth to share their opinions, share their ideas, and really come to the table. And they also afford these opportunities, also afford youth to understand climate and public health issues and policies, which really expands our learning beyond the classroom. We can learn things in a university or in a high school classroom, yet this takes it beyond and puts it into the context of the real world, so where we will be able to apply these skills.
Talk about raising awareness and making youth aware of climate issues. There are four main key strategies to educate, outreach, policy, and career paths that we'll be talking about in this presentation. So moving on to education. As has been stressed throughout this entire presentation, there are many works where you are making education for themselves or where people are advocating for education to be put into high schools, middle schools, and elementary schools about climate change. And that's mainly because a lot of teens don't actually know the real impact and the depth of the climate change issue. They obviously know that it is a thing, but they don't know exactly the cause of it. And it's very important to educate people on it because they have anxiety over what will happen and they believe that there's nothing they can do. And this education can inspire them to start working and can teach them exactly how they can help and exactly where they need to focus, as that hasn't really been taught to them in or outside of school. Moving on to policy. There are many policies and bills in the works that are use very high jargon that people might not be able to understand. They can feel very daunting to see so many policies being put out that they don't know how exactly to read. And EGC works to make this more doable for them by creating toolkits that break down policies and keep them up to date for what is happening with that bill and how it's being passed through the legislation. They also teach people how to advocate for them, how to petition for them, and ways to learn more about the issues that the policy focuses on. And I've worked with many of these and created opportunities for people to offer funding or petition for these bills and to help them understand better what is going on with their world so they feel less overwhelmed and can help more without feeling like they are too weak or don't exactly have the right knowledge to deal with these things. Next is outreach. It's very important with the youth. People are on social media and the news every single day. And the best way to reach young people is to use outreach by breaking down policies or your work or important facts and information, current events into Instagram posts or TikTok videos. A lot of teens will then watch that and feel inspired to do work and to help out. You can repost and engage with people directly through social media and through online sources to help teach them what to do and how to inspire them. And it just offers an opportunity for you to get involved where they have the best knowledge and where they know best. A lot of teens are on social media every day. This is an opportunity to take some time and to do that. Finally, there is sustaining involvement. There are many people involved with the issue and the environmental issue. So we have a podcast, a cup of EJ, where people teach, where we interview many climate professionals involved in the issue and offer them an opportunity to show youth how they can help. There are many different fields you can go into for environmental justice, and this is an opportunity to showcase what exactly each youth can do with their interest in environmental justice.
Now we'll be covering the last part of this presentation, which is what can you do as a public health professional or environmental professional within this space? So it's your part to play. So first, it's bridging the generational gap. This includes like bridging the understanding between generations to collaborate on solutions that serve all ages. We put a lot of the people that we have either talked to or partnered with on projects to show that there's a lot of cross-generational efforts that could be made and that have produced very fruitful results. Additionally, we want to bridge the generational gap because in a way, I talked to Dr. Buller in December of last year, and who's known as the father of environmental justice. This is a battle that needs to be continued on by our generation, and for us to better understand, we need to get the wisdom and the learning from people who've been so deeply involved and have sustained involvement in this field. So that includes like organizations like the Children's Environmental Health Network. It's also listening to youth voices. Like any public health issue or any environmental issue, it's really important to take account of the needs and the wants of the community that you're trying to target. So that includes involving youth in conversation about climate issues, whether it be your own children, your students, your nieces and nephews, or any children that you meet. It involves like slowly introducing these ideas, as well as helping them get involved and keep their interest in these topics. And there are several youth who are involved in these movements through various organizations like the Sunrise Movement, like EJC, who are really doing impactful work in this space. And opening the door is also very important. So this is an episode from our podcast. This is Ariel King, and she's an environmental lawyer as well as a part of several environmental organizations. So it's her talk basically focused on how youth opportunities are created within the environmental justice space and how you can help, like how you can pretty much take inspiration from people who already are involved in the movement to break into the space. Like there's no need to be intimidated. So really like providing that mentorship and that sort of advice is really what youth need. Youth aren't the subject matter expert on everything or nothing, to be honest, but we are the expert on our own experiences, and that's something that we can really bring to the table. And with mentorship, we can become more polished speakers, writers, and thinkers in this space. And to demystify the process, as Catherine has mentioned in our podcast, we really help demystify the process of what a career path can look like within the environmental space. This is actually another podcast episode with Jay Jasinski of the Environmental Media Association. And here I learned that there's such a need for environmental marketers or people in marketing who are interested in that like a communication space. You just need to communicate with the average person, the average citizen. And yeah, and he really demystified the process for people who are filmmakers, for people who love Hollywood movies and want to become scriptwriters one day or screenwriters. He really helped me see the picture of like how you can even be involved in sustainability on that front. So it just goes to show that almost any industry has an intersection with the environmental movement. So share your career path and how you got to the place you are today. So be the representation for maybe the career field that they eventually want to go into. And support youth-led efforts. There's a lot of youth-led organizations that I've mentioned before and climate initiatives. So one of the best ways to do this is through mentorship. There's several universities, IMC professors who provide mentorship. Some people start externally to provide mentorship for students. Really, it's just making that initial email. I've gotten countless amounts of emails where it's just like, we heard you talk and we'd love to talk to you. And that's really inspiring to me that someone's actually listening to the words that we say, the work that we do at EJC. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. And we'd like to thank Kathy, Roxana, for really inviting us and giving us and I this opportunity. And you can find more about us on our website, environmentaljusticecoalition.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rhea and Catherine, and thank you to all of our wonderful speakers. We're just about at the end of our time, but I think we covered a lot of ground. We talked about children's unique vulnerabilities. We talked about the importance of family childcare, housing, youth voices, and we uplifted quite a few successful strategies, successful stories, and really, I thought that one of the lessons learned was the need to really have non-traditional partnerships, whether that be non-traditional through public health, environmental, youth, childcare, all of those. I feel like those are non-traditional partnerships which only make our work stronger and more successful. So I encourage everyone to reach out to these speakers and their organizations to learn more about their wonderful work. Thank you for joining us today. Have a good rest of your Thursday.
Thank you.
Record.